products and, we do a launch, we try to cover everything in it. And it gets so detailed, it's just hard to absorb all this stuff. And then, then try to apply it at the time that you're in front of an opportunity. So I felt like it'd be easier just to kind of chunk this stuff out in small chunks and cover it. So really what I want to do this morning, and let me start by sharing my screen and getting you guys to acknowledge that you can see it. Let's see. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
All right. So really what I wanted to do is just briefly talk about, GA Pro. And you notice I'm not going backwards and talking about Graphics Arts Premium because you guys just launched a bunch of new products. I mean, my gosh, you get the 14,000, the 12,000, the 4,000 series, the 7,000 series, and all those come with the opportunity of GA Pro. So as you guys are, in the marketplace looking at opportunities, think about what GA Pro is now going to do for you guys in terms of sales. GA Pro gives you the ability now to sell these in a term license. So, the knock against Graphics Arts Premium in the old days was, it was like $7,000. And maybe the only feature the customer was going to use out of that was Image Viewer. That's a lot of money to pay for one feature. So, GA Pro now we took out a lot of the fluff that was in there and made that standard items that are now just standard within the controller. But the features that are part of GA Pro that, a customer is basically paying for when they pay this, they can buy in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 year term packages. So that makes it very flexible for your customers to make an investment in a product that they believe has a value, or only invest when they think they need it. Maybe at the initial buy, they didn't buy it, but down the road, Todd or anybody who was working with the customer, Mike, showed them the feature advantage and they said, oh my gosh, we should have bought that. Can I get it for a year so I can use it and determine how usable it is? And then, maybe I buy more terms after that. So, it just gives your customer a better opportunity to not have to make the biggest upfront commitment in price.
So I don't mean to interrupt him. So
Yeah.
for example, so we sell a machine and we say, hey, we'll throw GA Pro in for 1 year. And then after year one, they said, we don't really need it. So they skip year 2, they don't have it. So in year 3, they can go ahead and sign back up for like, say, 2 more years.
Yeah, from everything that I know right now, there is not like some of the other products like that comes with maintenance, like CPS or JobMaster.
Exactly.
There's no. It really just is term based. They buy a year, and then 5 years from now, they say, "Oh, we really do need that feature. Let's get it back because we got a different clientele now that we could use that." Yeah, they just buy whatever term they need.
So there's no cost to re-enter or anything like that. Where now you got to pay all the back terms.
Nope. Nope.
Okay.
There's no maintenance involved. So there's no back maintenance, for not having a maintenance contract. Cause that's really what that was. That was a maintenance contract.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
So yeah. So it really, for you guys, to me, what it really does on top of everything else is it makes it an open door policy for you guys to always have your foot in the door for reoccurring revenue. Maybe the customer is not upgrading their equipment at this particular time, so it's kind of a dead conversation, right? Well, maybe not. Maybe they need to renew some license, or they need to buy license that has product features that they want that they didn't do initially when they bought the machine. So it just kind of makes you in the account more often, more viable, and makes you again the trusted advisor. So that's first and foremost what you need to keep in mind about GA Pro is how it's licensed. All right. Then obviously, what's in it? Well, these are really the 5 big things that are in GA Pro. All right. And we've always had Image Viewer and, pre-flight and post-flight and a control bar. So what's really different now is what Image Viewer can do, which I'm going to show you guys. And then Spot Pro was not in GAPPE. We always had Spot On, but Spot Pro is completely different. And I'm going to cover that in a different session because it gets pretty deep. But these are the 5 things that are in GA Pro. And real quick, I kind of wanted to cover what's different in Image Viewer that you guys did not have the ability to do before. All right, so The first thing you're going to note here, let me get this, whoops, get off my screen here. So the main premise of Image Viewer really is to inspect files for problems, especially related to color, before you print, right? The ability to replace colors without going back to the designer, that is the key selling point for Image Viewer. So again, GA Pro. And you guys should probably be seeing this or hearing about it. The challenge in the marketplace is, labor comes at a premium now, and there's not a lot of experienced people out there who run print who understand graphic design. So, that market is getting tight. And if I've got, printing deadlines and I've got problems with my files and I constantly have to send them back to the graphic artist to fix them before we can print, that's causing me a lot of grief. So that's kind of really where you want to position GA Pro. So here are the 4 things that are happening in Image Viewer now. And you'll notice I put here what's always been standard and what's new. So you've always had the ability to do these page level color curve adjustments on the entire page itself. What's new is page level color replacements. That started in FS350. And then we have these local color replacements and local curve adjustments, where you can identify a certain area on a page where you just want to adjust that spot. You don't want to replace the whole page. You just want to adjust a certain area. So I'm going to bore you guys a second with this video instead of me doing it myself. This is Mike Robinson, who leads the Command Workstation team. Watch as he shows those 4 features. I'm going to make this bigger probably. And you guys hopefully will tell me whether or not you can hear the audio really well.
Hi. There are a number of new features around color correction in Image Viewer in Command Workstation 6.5, and I want to give you an overview of them all together. I want to show you how page-level color curves, which Image Viewer has always had, page-level color replacements, which are new in FS350, local color replacement, which is new in Fiery FS400, and local color curves, new in FS400. I'll also show you a couple of user interface changes around the edit pane at the presets location. So let me go through all 4 of those color corrections. First one is going to be the page level color curves. Now this is something that we've always had. We've always been able to show a very high res preview of Command Workstation. I'm able to drag these color curves and adjust the individual channels as such. Now you notice that these are changes that we've always had on Image Viewer, but you can also notice that change is now showing up here as a page level entry for the color curves down here in the edits pane. I come back up here, I'm going to make this a little bit less obvious. Now I want to go and do the second color correction, which is the page level color replacement. This was page level color curves. Now we can talk about page level color replacement. Now this is where I can pick with a color replacement pane, I can pick an existing color from a job and then replace it with one of 3 options. I can use an eyedropper to be able to pick a color from somewhere else on the page itself and apply it. Or I can go ahead and edit the actual process colors right here, and you'll see how that is changing. I also now have a third option where I can pick a spot color from the Fiery Spot Color library. Now these are similar to the library shown in Fiery Spot Pro. So there's 14,000 spot colors I have on this particular Fiery. So let me go ahead and choose this Pantone color. Take this, and now I can go ahead and apply that. Now you can see how that color has changed. This is actually a little fuzzy. If you zoom into 100%, it actually the image quality is going to be very precise and very detailed, very accurate. At 100% level, you'll be able to see that. Actually, zoom all the way in. You can see exactly what this is looking like. Let me zoom back out so I can see the entire page here. Now, this kind of change works best on flat colors like spot colors and is not recommended to use on images. So if I wanted, for this particular color replacement that I've just done, if I want to apply these color replacements to this same color replacement from this color to all the other pages in the document, I can just click apply all, and that will copy those color replacements to all of those other pages. So that was the second color correction feature. Now the third color correction feature I want to talk about is local color replacement. Now this is the same feature that I just showed you, except you can apply the replacement to just a defined smaller rectangular area on the page. So first, I'll select the local button in the toolbar in order to enter the local selection mode. And now I'm going to drag a marquee just around the area that I want to go ahead and constrain the color replacement changes to. Then I can follow the same steps I showed you before with a page level color replacement. So here I can sample this particular image, and now I want to go ahead and make this just 100% magenta. And I can apply that. You can see how that shows up right there. Now when I finish my changes, I can go ahead and I've clicked apply, and those changes are all set. Now you see this entry, like all the other ones, are here in the edits pane. Now fourth, for the final color correction, we'll apply local color curve corrections. This behavior is just like all of these original color curves that I did, except we're going to apply it to a defined area of the page. So just like the color replacement feature, I can go out of that mode. Now I'm back in this mode with a color correction. And if I want to go ahead and select just the actually inside portion of this particular image, and now I can follow the same steps I used to modify the page level curves to go ahead and just modify these curves right here in rather drastic way, just for effects shape to show you what this is looking like. And then when I finish these changes, I can click apply, and then those changes will also now be showing up in the edits toolbar as well. So now you can see the examples of all four of these color corrections in the edit panel. It's important to note that when you make multiple color corrections, the second one depended on the changes that I made in the first one, and the third one depends on the state of the color after these two have been affected. So if you reorder, for instance, if I hide some of these, that'll affect all of the colors down below. And if I reorder or delete, I can also take this one. It's possible to reorder those as well, and that'll affect the results of the other colors as well. One of the changes that we've made, we moved the image viewer preset from down here underneath the color adjust. We've moved that up here to the toolbar up at the very top. Saving a preset, for instance, if I were to save a preset here, this would include all of the page level color curves and the page level color replacements. It does not include local color curves or local color replacements. So the thing to remember there is this is doing all of the page level changes that I've just made here. So that's a summary of the.
Okay, does that make sense to you guys?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty slick.
It is pretty slick, isn't it?
Yeah, I like it. Local color curves.
Yeah, just keep in mind what he said. If you're saving that whole setup as a preset, any of your local adjustments, whether it's the local curve or the local replacement, will not be part of that preset, which kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense because each document is going to be different.
Correct. So that's just something that you got to remember when talking about this product to a customer. But this feature alone, this plus Spot Pro really drives sales in GA Pro. The fact that you can do those things just makes it unbelievably flexible. All right. So these other slides that you guys are seeing here is just kind of pointing out what he did in the video. That's why I did the video. This video is specific to that local color replacement that he just did. All right. And then you can generate some proofs from this. So if this was, he's making all those changes, you want it to be able to soft proof this as a PDF, whether it's the current page or the whole job. you can do that. That's right here. I'm going to go to my virtual, hopefully. If I was in, I don't know, let's go to this one. And if I go to image viewer on this guy, when I get done making all of my adjustments, and I think this is really what the job should look like when I print, if I go under file here, where is it? Right here under export, I can create a soft proof. Okay, and again, I can do all pages, or I can do, this is a variable, so I wouldn't do all pages. I can pick my resolution that I want to create this PDF at, and then it creates that one-page PDF that now I can send to my customer and have them sign off that that is correct. So some pretty good tools in there. And again, it's all about making it easier for these print operators, not to have to send jobs back to pre-press, or God forbid they don't even have a pre-press department. These are just jobs they get from customers. Now the tools are built into their Fiery so they can, complete this without having to, again, have a graphic arts specialist to go in as, InDesign or wherever and fix the problems. So again, just you have the ability to preview these and edit the specialty colors. This is, you guys don't have this, but if you had a machine that had a fit color station and your specialty colors were part of your spot colors, when you did that color replacement, those would also be available to replace. So pretty good for those companies who have fit color stations. All right, so we're going to skip past Spot Pro for a second because, again, I'm going to cover that in a separate one. But the other things that are in here are pre-flight, right? You guys have always seen pre-flight in here where you can check for missing elements like spot colors, fonts, right? You can get a warning about this. There is another thing in pre-flight that's not really talked about a whole lot, and unfortunately, I don't have the proper file to show you guys. But I will show you where it would be. I've ran into this a bunch of times. Customers printing a PostScript file that has tray callouts. All right, and we want to know what's the tray callouts in the file. It's always a mystery. Well, you can use Preflight to get that information. It's under additional information. If I was to Preflight this file, right where it says additional job info, we're telling you everything about what was in the file and how it was constructed. So if there was callouts in here that, white papers being pulled from tray 1, blue papers being pulled from tray 2, or so on, that would be in this additional job info. So the only other way you could find out is to open some kind of text editor, right? And then look at the customer's original file. Well, if you've got Preflight, you don't have to do that. You just run it through Preflight. The additional information will tell you what the trade designation or the media designation was for those types of jobs. So it's just another great tool inside Preflight that guys didn't even know about. So then, of course, you get this post-flight tool. How many of you guys honestly have ever used post-flight for troubleshooting? I'm with you. Post-flight. So once again, if I go into this job and I go into properties of this job and I go to job info, right down here under reporting, I can select that I want to post-flight this job first. And I'm going to select this concise report. And then all I'm going to do is a process and hold. Now this file is, I shouldn't run this file. This is a variable and it's a very large file. Sorry about that. Let me get a really small one here. Well, actually, here's one I ran earlier. Here's what this post-flight report would look like under the concise report. And I realize it's not very big. What we do is we color code the areas that are feature related. So like for here, this is the CMYK objects. We're showing you everywhere on the document that is highlighted with this color is using CMYK objects. And as a result of that, we're going to use these features in the Fiery in order to reproduce that file. What you're looking for in these post flights is any elements inside the file that are not represented by a color, meaning it's wrong. It's not there. Something's wrong with it. This example that you see on my PowerPoint showing that. You see right down here at the bottom, it's saying that this PMS color 465 that's in the file is a missing color. It doesn't exist in your Fire-E. And it's giving you a color code. So if you were to print it with this turned on, it would print the color over the image where it's being used. Right? So post-flight is mostly troubleshooting or pre-troubleshooting. What am I going to fail on before I print this document before I print it? If that makes sense to you guys. All right. And then the last thing that's in GA Pro that you really got to know about is this control bar. So this is giving the customer the opportunity to pick from an industry standard what they try to hit in terms of their qualification of color, and they can print that color bar on the prints. And that again is done in the same place that post-flight is done. It's just in properties, right? And it's right here. I'm turning my color bar on or off is all I'm doing. Okay. All right. So short and sweet and to the point. I didn't want to go too deep in anything other than to introduce you to the fact that GA Pro has got those 5 features in it, and it's, you can sell it based on a term license, not, they're buying the whole package for forever. And so it makes it more flexible pricing wise for you guys. So did I miss anything, or is there something else you want to know about GA Pro? I got crickets, man. I'm not sure.
No, it's good information, James.
That's
Yeah, it
good,
was
Jim.
good.
Thank you.
Hey, under the replacement, the color replacement, where the new thing is you can pull up the spot color library.
Yeah.
Does that also pull up custom spot colors that you've added?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, good. So it's all just the entire library.
Yeah. In fact, when you saw that, I'm not sure that you guys recognize it because he named it the same. But when he pulled up his spot library, there was
14,000. Yeah, there was a lot of them.
Yeah, right. There were 14,000, right? Which would be
Oh my
a
God,
little
that's more than the
unusual.
standard. Okay, I just want to make sure I put up the custom ones. They say USF green. That's a custom spot color that they use. So like if in a file they need to, if they need to replace something with USF green, they can just pull up their custom spot.
Yeah, I mean, so that now I will tell you that is new with Command Workstation 6. The customer has to be on Command Workstation 6.5 or above in order to get that.
Okay.
So even though it's an image viewer capability and a GA Pro capability, if they're running anything below that, they won't see that.
Okay.
And it's just how it gets connected to the library is what it is. It's really nothing more to do with that. But yeah, if I click here, what this should be doing is pulling up my entire library, including any of my specialty ones that I've created. And I was looking for that because I don't know if this one I have. This one it's at the top here called this one right here, Warner CMYK. That's a special one.
Okay.
In fact, both of these are the ones for that university, Todd, Warner University.
Okay, cool.
Over in your neck of the woods.
Yeah.
So yeah. So
James, I've got a question on the control bar. I haven't had much experience using that. I'm aware of where it is and how to turn it on and off, but what exactly is that used for?
Customers in the industry that are used to putting a control bar from their presses.
Yep.
They're just using that as their measuring of whether or not the colors are the control bar is being printed on the engine that they're printing on, so they can compare that control bar to their standard and see if the engine is producing the colors on their control bar accurately.
Yeah, and plus another thing, Mike, the control bar, it's like a validation wedge is what it is.
Yeah.
Wonder if it's G7 or not.
It depends on how you have. If you're shooting to ideal lines G7, yeah, you get the validation wedge, and you'd have to scan that in.
Sure.
You can use any software to scan it in and analyze that validation wedge.
Well, it's right here. It's the last bullet point. It integrates with Fire-E View Verify,
which is Color Profiler Suite.
Yeah,
that's free. That's free with Profiler Suite anyway. You don't even have to buy Profiler Suite to get Verifier, right?
Correct. That is correct.
Yeah, so that way you can scan that in and see if you're meeting that tolerance for, say, if you're running a Grackle shop or a G7 shop, you know, Hogan shop.
Yeah, it's just easy because it's being printed on the document that you're ultimately going to finish, and you can compare, you verify that you're verifying it on that print, on that paper.
Yep.
Gotcha.
That this print now meets, you know, is within G7 specs or whatever you want to do.
Yep. Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Thank you.
So, I mean, so I really think those, you know, really these, you know, these 5 things that are in GA Pro makes it highly valuable to a customer. And the way that you guys can sell it now, right, makes it easy to sell, because there's a huge advantage to image viewers you guys just saw in Spot Pro, which you'll see later. And these are, in my opinion, are hardly used, but they're there. And so now the price is more reflective of really the most highly used features in there, because now we're not charging you $7,000 and you're buying it on a term base.
I think that the local ones are going to be a big sell.
Oh, big time. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Local curves.
Well, because you guys have heard, I mean, you guys have heard the argument all the time. You've been in the shops. I was just in a shop down in Fort Myers. The guy had literally 1,000 color curve adjustments.
Yeah,
1,000. How the hell do you manage 1,000 of those? So local color curves and local replacement would have kept him from doing that.
Exactly.
And
You just fix that up.
yeah. And he didn't want to buy Color Profiler Suite. I'm like, okay, so like you're gonna manage 1,000 color curve adjustments. So yeah. So they're out there. There's opportunities.
Cool.
All right. So again, short and sweet. I didn't want to tie you guys up real long. I mean, if you guys want to go through Spot Pro right now, we can.
Is that next?
It is. I had it scheduled 11:30 because again, I was opening that for everybody, but it doesn't matter to me.
Well, let's wait for 11 because other people may want to join.
Right.
Yeah, so we'll wait until then because, you know, someone else may want to join then.
Yeah.
I don't want to cheat them.
Okay.
Good point.
Well, I'll do that 11:30 regardless. So it's up to you guys.
Yeah, I don't care. That way, I'll do Spot Pro.
Yeah,
You know
I'm good. I've got time.
All right. I'll just do it. And if you guys join again, you join again. No big deal, right?
Cool.
So you guys know we've always had the Spot On, but now with GA Pro and FS 400, you have Spot Pro, which really gives you a lot of extra capabilities that has been desperately needed. So I'm going to cover, you know, the big changes. The biggest one to me is this one right here. The ability to export an ASE file from, say, let's say InDesign, where a designer has gone through the trouble of creating their own color palettes based on every job that they produce. And, you know, in the old way, you had to do it. You had to go into Spot Pro and create that same color swatches, right? And you're spot on and create your custom library. Well, now you can just export that information out of InDesign and import it into Spot Pro. So whatever swatch library they created in InDesign is now in your Fiery controller.
Really?
So, yeah.
Huh.
So watch this. Here's a little video.
Okay.
This is Giselle. She does an absolutely great job at these things.
Munchausen? Is that Giselle Munchausen? Did you know Tom
No.
Brady?
With accurate brand color reproduction, the print service provider needs to ensure they're working closely with the designer. And Fiery Spot Pro provides several tools to ensure print service providers and designers are all on the same page and brand colors are reproduced accurately from design to print. One of the pain points print service providers have when working with designers is consistency in the colors used. A designer may create a file with named spot colors that may not be on the Fiery server. And in order to avoid issues printing those colors correctly, the print service provider would have to manually create those spot colors on the Fiery server. Or maybe they used a specific Pantone, but the name was not exactly as it appears in the library. With Spot Pro, you can share swatch sets with designers and vice versa. They can output a swatch from Adobe applications and send to their print service provider, who can easily load it into Spot Pro. And it works in reverse too. Say a designer is new to working with a print service provider on a specific brand's account. The print service provider can export their brand colors from Spot Pro and send to the designer, who can then import them into their Adobe application.
So it goes both ways. if the print provider is, creating a lot of spot colors that matches the client's print files, they can send that information, export it out of the Fiery, and the designer can import it into their design, and now they have that swatch library.
This way, all parties can be working from the same set of name colors, which is a win-win all around. So let's take a quick look at how it works. So let's look at how you export an Adobe Swatch Exchange, ASE, file from an Adobe application. So here I'm using InDesign. And when I go to the swatches pane, you see I have a subset here called Manner and Basic Colors. You see that there's several Pantone colors along with a couple of custom spot colors, Sky Blue and Manner Green. So to export these as a ASE file, I simply highlight this subgroup, and in this menu in the upper right, I select Save Swatches. And if you notice, there's a Load Swatches option here, and I will come back to this in just a minute. So I select Save Swatches, and you can see that the .ase extension is already populated here. So I would rename this and save it, which I'm not actually going to do right now because I've done this previously. So once I've got my ASE file, I can go to and you'll notice that Spot Pro looks a lot like Spot On. In fact, the easiest way to get to Spot Pro is to get to it from this menu here in the main Command Workstation Job Center, but you can also get to it from Device Center and from the Settings menu too, I believe. So like Spot On, all of your spot color groups and libraries are here on the left, and your individual spot colors show here on the right, and you've even got the same pencil icon to edit the individual colors. So once I'm here in Spot Pro, I select Open from the top menu, and I navigate to where my ASE file is. Now, if you're on a Mac like me, there's an extra step you need to do because the default format here is CXF. So I just simply need to choose ASE, and then my ASE file is there. So I click Open. So now you see that on the left that I've got a new custom group, M&M Swatch, and it's got all of the same custom colors that I had in InDesign in it. So I can also export my custom groups from Spot Pro as an ASE file. I simply just say Save As, choose ASE, and then I save it. So that swatch can then be imported back into the Adobe application to use. So when I mentioned Load Swatches a few minutes ago, that's where you would go to bring back in an ASE file that had been exported from Spot Pro, which would be great to do if your customer is working with a new designer who may not be familiar with a specific set of corporate colors. They provide them the colors exactly how they are on the Fiery server so that there is design consistency throughout the process.
All right, so that's pretty freaking cool, right? The ability to do that by itself is worth gold to me.
Now,
That's our number one struggle.
yeah, here's a question. Okay. Now, I remember you told me in the, in the past that in the new Firies, you're able to call up a specific spot color, directly into the file versus how the old ways where it goes through from top to bottom to find that spot color.
Correct. Yeah.
So does this work with that way?
Yeah, that's not a GA Pro or a Spot Pro thing. That's
exactly.
That's a Command Workstation change.
Yeah.
So when you're in your file and you're in the properties, now what you have under your spot is you have a drop down so you can see all of the colors. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So when you import that new one, Spot Pro from InDesign, it'll be here, so you can choose that, and that way it'll always look at that library.
That is correct.
That's awesome.
In fact, this Warner right here is a group, and inside that group is two colors. So it's going to be looking at the group, and if there's colors that match it by file name or by name of color, then it will replace those.
Yeah, that way you don't accidentally get a bad replacement because of order.
Exactly. Yeah, because that was a big challenge.
Yeah, I was like, cool.
Yeah, so that's that to me is big feature number one.
Yeah.
Some of the other things are this spot color alias. And I'm gonna have Giselle do this one as well because she does a pretty good job. This one's big. This one is just like what you saw, with the exception of, and she's probably using the same example, is you may have the customer swatch library, but they called a Pantone 287 blue. They didn't call it Pantone 287, and we all know what that's going to do. It's going to create a challenge. So you can create an alias that says, we're not going to ask the customer to change their file and name it correctly. We're just going to map their name to the right color. Come on, Giselle.
But what if you get a file where you don't have the swatch available and the spot color is named something different than what you're expecting, or if it's not the values you're expecting? With the alias feature in Spot Pro, you can make sure spot colors always show correctly, even if they're not configured correctly in the design file. So if you sold Fiery for a while, you're probably thinking that what I'm describing sounds a lot like substitute colors, right? Well, the functionality is similar, although with substitute colors, you're simply mapping a spot color to a set of RGB or CMYK values. What's new with the spot color alias feature is the ability to map one named color to another named color. So let's look at this example. Two different designers for the same brand are sending files to a print service provider. They're using the same color set, but they're using different names for the same color. You see one designer is calling a color sky blue and the other is calling it light blue. And one designer is using the actual name, Pantone 229C, and another's called that same color Manor Garnet. Well, the print service provider knows that sky blue and Pantone 229C match what's in the customer's spot color group on their Fiery server. So you can create an alias for each color to map it to the correct color so it always prints consistently, which saves work on both the designer and the pre-press or press operator's parts. So one really important note here, this particular feature requires Fiery FS400 or FS400 Pro software. Not all of our partners are shipping FS400 Pro just yet, but it's a great feature to learn about for when your time does come to sell FS400 servers.
So you guys got a little bit of an advantage here because I know for a fact that not all partners have this capability yet. So
it's also really important to use Command Workstation 6.5 in order to ensure the best user experience for the alias feature. So now let's take a look at a quick demo. So in Spot Pro, you see we've already got our custom spot color group here that has all of the corporate colors in it. So now I will open the alias interface. So light blue is one of the different names the designer used. So I will, but we know it should print as the sky blue color that's already in our custom spot color group. So that's the first thing I'm going to set up an alias for. So I typed in light blue here and I hit the plus sign. And you see it showing up in red because that spot color is not currently present on the Fiery server, which is actually okay. Next, I'll go to this alias 2 box here, and then I will type in sky blue. And here you see it comes up in the search, and the search is actually, I'm going to pull the one that's in my specific spot color group here. So I click that and I hit add alias, and you see it adds, goes to the list here. So now I will repeat the process for Manor Garnet. Type it in, hit the plus sign, and then I'll type in 229 because I want to get Pantone 229C. And again, I will pick the one that's in my customers, in my specific swatch group here because I know that's the right color. Hit add alias, and then we're good. So again, both of these are showing up in red because they're not present on the Fiery server. But with the alias feature, it's actually not that big of a deal. So I will hit apply and close. And then I will actually close out of Spot Pro. So I made a little file for illustration purposes here. So when you look at this file, the top row on the left here, you're seeing Pantone 229C, and on the right, you're seeing sky blue. On the bottom, for illustration purposes, I made swatches that are Manor Garnet and light blue, and I made them different colors, really wrong colors. So you can see as a visual example what happens when the alias feature takes over. So now I go to another copy of the file that's actually had the alias applied, and you can see now all of the colors are showing up as they're supposed to be. Manor Garnet is showing up as Pantone 229C, and light blue is showing up as sky blue. So the alias process worked exactly as we wanted it to.
All right. So I don't know, guys. You tell me. That's pretty cool or what?
There, I've done that a few times using the spot color deal, make a color completely different so I know that it's taken effect when it works.
Yeah. Right. Yep. So alias is pretty cool. I think alias really comes into play when you have multiple, like she pointed out, when you have multiple pre-pressed departments that are sending files and they're using the exact same color palette, but they've named them differently. It keeps the print provider from going back and saying, hey, I've got that in my library as Pantone 287. Can you please change it in your file? They don't have to do that. They just go, okay, he's always going to call it sky blue, so I'm going to put an alias that sky blue is 287C. Boom, done. Right? So 6.5 command workstation required, Spot Pro and FS400 to do spot color alias.
How many aliases can you have per color?
You know, that's a good question. I don't know. I think that's been asked before, so I'm gonna have to make a note here and ask if Giselle knows. Because I don't know if you guys noticed in her illustration, even though she added the alias, the library didn't show that there was aliases. You have to be in the alias, right? And it shows you all your aliases there. So
yeah, like that's why I was asking. It's like,
yeah, I'll ask if there's a limit. So spot color alias, and then these things I'm just going to go through and do for you guys. So some of the other great features in Spot Pro that we just didn't have before, it makes it a little bit easier to function, is before in Spot On, if you had to find a Pantone, a couple things. If you were going to do a search in the entire library, you had to know the exact name of the Pantone, right? And if you didn't type it in correctly, it didn't come up. The second thing was it only searched, it didn't search the entire library. You had to highlight which library you were searching. Well, that's not true anymore. And I'm going to put Pantone 287. I always pick on that, right? 287. And that's all I'm going to put in there is Pantone 287. Hit enter. So it's going to search the entire library. And it's going to show you anything that's got the word Pantone or 287 in it. It doesn't care whether it's U, whether it's C, whether it's neither. It's going to show you all options and you'll have the entire library. I must not have done this in a long time because there we go. So you can see how it just comes up with a list. And you can see it found C, U, and XG. So all I do is select the one that I'm looking for. So this is a global library search now. Right? If I took the 7 out, you see it's expanded because now it's searching everything is Pantone 2.8. It doesn't matter what the last extension is, it's taking the first. So it's a global search. Some of the other things here is when you're editing, you now have the ability to edit these in the lab space. All right, so you can see this one. I can't use this one because this one I already created. Hold on a second. Let's pick one of these. So on the screen that you're looking at, some things that are worth mentioning is you can put your delta E target that you're tracking on these in here, right? And then the green check mark is telling me that particular color is meeting the delta E requirement. It's within gamut. You can see there's some down here that are not. It's not hitting its target. Here's where I was telling you, if you were in the edit mode, you can edit in the lab space. Okay. Obviously, it's not letting me edit that one because it's out of gamut. If you needed to fix this color, you used to have Color Profiler Suite to fix spot colors that are out of gamut. You don't have to have Color Profiler Suite anymore. In Spot Pro, I can simply click Optimize, pick which colors I'm optimizing, the one I selected, and then as long as I have a spectrophotometer, I can now go in and optimize that color, selecting my device, hitting print, and then scanning it, until I iterate it until I can fall into my delta E that I'm looking for on those colors. So that's huge. Customers who used to use spot on all the time, that was the number one complaint, was as the colors drift, there was no way for them to adjust them back to where they should be. Well, you now have that. The other thing you can do in here is you can actually print a swatch library. If I go to print, it'll let me pick the patch size, the chart size, the paper I want to print on. You know, if you're printing a swatch library for a particular customer, you can put that name and then hit print. And now you'll have a swatch library based on your selection. And this is per library. So you can't print everything that's in the library at once. You have to pick each library and hit print and then decide how you're going to print that out.
Hey, back to that optimizing thing.
Yeah.
Now, so basically, it's you're doing a profile on a spot color.
No, you're iterating the color according to the output profile. So that's a good point. So right here, see where it says output profile? So anytime that you're printing any of these, you have to select what profile you're printing them under.
Exactly.
And in the old spot on, you couldn't do that. The default profile is what it would print on. Now you can select a profile. You can select all of them that you wanted to apply, or you can just choose the one that you want.
Okay.
So that is important.
Yeah. Okay. That's like, okay, cool.
Yeah. Let me see. So again, here's where you can add, you know, what delta E you're tracking these under, what standard. Okay. And then if you change it, it's reconfiguring all these to find out. You can see under that standard, they're all out of gamut.
Jeez.
Okay. And that's done under preferences. So if you got those customers who really work heavily in spot, you know, this is going to be very useful to them. And then the process for creating new groups and substitute colors is the same, right? You create a group, give it a name. You know, it's going to show up. These are mine right here, right? And then you have the ability to and here's where I can edit that in lab space right here. Okay.
Oh, Mike. Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
Do you know that with the Miro 1, you can't use that to grab color anymore?
Really? I thought I was supposed to do the same thing as the ES3000.
Yeah, everybody thought.
Trust me, I found it out the hard way. I did
Oh,
two
no.
different accounts, exact same problem.
Yeah, everybody on the call, you should be aware of that. I've said this openly, even to the KM people. I don't care if you guys sell an ES3000, sell the Mirio all you want. That's not where we make our money, right? But when KM came to us and said, we want this to work in a Fiery, what they didn't do was they didn't pay us to program it to work in other features in the Fiery. So Spot Pro and Spot On is not a command workstation tool. It's a different tool that happens to be, you can navigate through command workstation to get to it. Well, our system is coded to recognize spectros that are programmed in. They did not pay to have us program it in. They know that. So if you sell it and expecting a customer to use it as a measuring device in Spot Pro or Spot On, it's not going to work. It's not going to be there.
Well, it shows it, but it just won't connect. It will never connect.
Yeah, it's not programmed. So
It's not
I've told your product marketing people this. They know about it. That's Lisa Sonego and Russell Doucette.
yeah, I let you tell them. I was pissed. I'm like, dang it.
Yeah. It does work. It does work in Color Profiler Suite. I've verified that, and that's because again, it's a Color Profiler Suite is a standalone product that doesn't need Command Workstation, so it doesn't have to be programmed in there.
But that's a lot more expensive than.
Yeah. So it's just an FYI. How many customers really use a Spectro to scan, you know, hard copies to start their spot color that they're going to generate? Probably not a lot, but I know when I did training and probably when you guys do training, you showed that. So
That's how I figured out it didn't work. So I'm like going, what? I said,
Yeah.
let me get back to you guys on that one. Then I had another training the next day at a completely different location. Same thing. I'm like, what? 2 different locations. Got to be something besides.
So Todd called me. I did some research and found out, yeah, that's not going to work.
I'm like, God, this sucks.
So I don't know what the price difference is, but may not be worth the price difference.
I just showed it to a customer this past
We're
week.
gonna tell you that, though, you know.
Yeah, appreciate it. I just showed a ES3000 doing that this past week at a customer, and luckily they had that and not the Myro.
Yeah. So
Yeah. So guys, you can see here's the alias button right here.
yeah.
So same thing she just showed if you wanted to create an alias for that. It does keep it in the list down here. So Todd, to your question is how many? I don't know. I'll find out.
Yep.
And then the the export that she was showing is this save as. There we go. Right. And that's automatically going to save it as a CS XF. And then that can be imported over into InDesign.
Yep.
So some pretty cool new things in here. Spot Pro really has kind of changed the game. I think it covers everything in here, creating your custom swatch books, is optimizing your colors. You can be done now with that color profiler suite. And again, editing in lab. I mean, a lot of the spot guys that I worked with, they were shocked that they couldn't edit in lab before. So this is obviously something that they're used to doing in the ink world.
Yeah. His lab colors are more accurate, anyways.
Yeah. Well, that's the reason why they like doing it there. So that's really Spot Pro. It's there. The customer has it if they have GA Pro, and all the features, including the alias, works on an FS 400 with Command Workstation 6.5.
Oh, I like
Do you
GA
have the
Pro.
slide deck to share?
I can share this. Yeah, there's nothing proprietary in here. If you guys want, I'll just send it out as a PDF because it makes it smaller.
That's fine.
Yeah. And again, my intent here is you guys have seen this more than once, but you also juggle 1,000 different products and a bunch of different sales reps and different markets that you're trying to hit. So it's just out of sight, out of mind. I'm just trying to keep us in front of all these great tools that you have that really makes it every customer is different. And one guy may be very sensitive to having the ability to do some stuff that's specific in Spot. So I need to sell them an ES3000 and I need to sell them GA Pro, where another guy could care less about any of that stuff, but he needs freeform create, so he needs a Fiery. So that's my idea behind doing this. Just keep you guys fresh.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah. If you guys have any other questions or you need something else, just let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to wrap this one up with a PDF and I'll send it out to you guys.
Sounds good.
And listen, I'll get the information about the Spot Color alias number and I'll re-communicate.
Sounds good. Thanks, James.
Appreciate it, James.
All right.
Yep. Talk to you later, man.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.